There is a grave in Vanuatu marked not with a stone, but with a scuba tank, and beneath the waves of Espiritu Santo lies a shipwreck that became world famous because of one man. They called him Mr. President, but his real name was Allan Power, and without him the SS President Coolidge might never have become one of the world's greatest wreck dives. Hi, I'm Katie, a scuba instructor for over 7 years, and together with my partner I run Trident Explorers on the incredible island of Espiritu Santo. We're here to entertain, educate and share our love of scuba diving with you, and if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then please hit the subscribe button. Now let's dive in. Allan Power was born in Sydney in 1933, and he wasn't a diver, not a marine scientist, not even close. He actually started out as a pastry chef, and then he spent 15 years working in a foam rubber factory. Nothing about his earlier life suggested that he would actually one day shape dive tourism in the South Pacific, but everything changed on holiday in the 1960s. Allan visited Heron Island on the Great Barrier Reef, and he saw the underwater world for the first time, and that was it. He was hooked. In 1956, Allan bought an underwater camera, something that was actually still rare at the time, and that decision changed his entire life. His photography gained recognition, eventually winning him the Levanto Prize, and in 1977 he published his book, The Great Barrier Reef. But while his reputation grew, the real story was actually just about to begin, and far away from Australia. In 1969, the SS President Coolidge wasn't a dive site, it was actually just another World War II wreck sitting in the South Pacific just waiting to be salvaged. The 4-ton brass propellers alone were worth the entire mission. There was even talk of refloating the entire wreck, but thankfully for Vanuatu that never happened. Barry May from the salvage vessel Pacific Seal actually invited Allan to come and document the whole operation, and Allan's response? Yeah, why not? No long-term plan, no expectations, and he later said, I just came to have a look, and 40 years later I'm still looking, because he would never actually truly leave. What followed wasn't tourism, it was hard, dangerous salvage diving. Sometimes divers were sent down with twin sets of tanks, no time limits, just a job to finish, and Allan himself actually logged over 600 dives during that time. After what locals called the Coconut Rebellion, Allan Power took a new direction. In 1981 he started Allan Power Dive Tours, and at that time there was no fancy setup. It was just Allan. He filled scuba tanks in his garage, and he welcomed divers into his home, and he gave them coffee and buns while telling stories of the wreck. And it worked. More than 45 group bookings came within a single year, and divers kept coming. So the need for dive tourism infrastructure grew with it, and that's how he developed his long-standing partnership with Hotel Santo, which was actually directly across from his house in Luganville town. Slowly Espiritu Santo changed, and at the centre of that change was Allan and the SS President Coolidge. Over the decades, Allan Power became more than just a dive operator. He became the unofficial caretaker of the Coolidge. It's estimated he completed more than 1,500 dives on the SS President Coolidge, which is quite an imaginable number of dives on a single site. And he knew that wreck in a way few ever could. Every corridor, every hold, every light fixture, everything. But he was also strict. If you didn't respect the dive schedule, you literally got left behind. There are stories of divers actually running after the bus as he drove away. And at the same time, his knowledge of marine life was exceptional. Divers often described him as having an encyclopedic understanding of fish species. His actually most famous relationship was with a giant grouper that he called Boris, which he had a relationship for over 2 decades, but sadly he never actually managed to take a photograph with him. In 2011, Allan Power was inducted into the International Scuba Diving Hall of Fame, recognising his contribution to diving and his role in establishing the Coolidge as a world-class dive site. And by then his influence was already deeply embedded in diving culture here. Locals called him Uncle, divers called him Mr. President, and in his acceptance speech he offered a simple reflection. They say happiness is doing something you love with people you love, and I am a happy man tonight. In his later years, Allan actually faced serious heart problems, and doctors advised him to return to Australia, but he chose not to leave his home. He remained here until his death in 2018 at the age of 85. At the time, his home contained a really large collection of artefacts from the SS President Coolidge, many of which were actually donated to the South Pacific World War II Museum, where you can still go and see them today. With no children, Allan's business ceased operations, and his estate was inherited by his sister, and in 2022 a new dive operator bought the brand from the estate and began operating under the Allan Power Dive Tours name. He was buried buried in Luganville Cemetery, marked by a scuba tank, and on the bow of the SS President Coolidge a memorial plaque was placed in his honour, still visible to divers ascending the wreck he helped make famous. The SS President Coolidge is now one of the most iconic wreck dives in the world, but its story is not about war, or sinking, or even exploration. It's about one man who arrived by chance, stayed by choice, and turned a forgotten wreck into a global legend. If you enjoyed this story and you want more real diving history and scuba tips, make sure to follow for more diving content. And if this story has inspired you to experience the SS President Coolidge for yourself, whether through guided dives or dive training on site, you can reach out to us directly to book your dives or courses on Espiritu Santo, because some stories aren't just meant to be watched, they're meant to be explored underwater.